When we begin to evaluate what teams are going to give us an opportunity to pluck some players during free agency, I think the most important stat that you need to look at is, well, who has cap available, or who's in trouble. And I've identified 5 teams right now that are in a little bit of trouble. And again, I'm only going to be able to base this off of Spotrac and hope that their numbers are accurate and the information that they're giving is accurate. So again, this is based on Spotrac.com free agency trackers and NFL team salary cap availability. And to start 2024, now this is before the new league year and when the salary cap is adjusted. But right now, I've identified these 5 teams as potential opportunities for the Detroit Lions to go in and find some good players that they can add to this 2024 roster. So right away, the New Orleans Saints, they are minus $82.8 million in cap space right now. Now they're going to have to do a lot of adjustments. They're going to not be able to bring back some of the players that they're hoping to keep at least, and that sentiment can be shared across the board with all of these teams that we're talking about today. So let's take a look at the New Orleans Saints free agent tracker right now and see if there's any players that make any sense for the Lions at this point. Now, I have not done a deep dive on each one of these players independently, but I'm just going to look at the position that they play and based on the holes that the roster has, or at least the holes that I believe the roster has for the 2024 season for the Detroit Lions. So you have guard Andrus Peat, right tackle James Hurst, another guard Trey Turner, cornerback Lonnie Johnson, cornerback Isaiah Yeadham, outside linebackers Zach Baun, guard Max Garcia, tackle Cameron Irving, safety Ugo Umadi, defensive end Kyle Phillips, defensive end Malcolm Roach, cornerback Shamar Jean Charles, wide receiver Rashid Shaheed, and defensive tackle PJ Mustafa, and guard Billy Price. So those are a lot of players that I believe fit the holes that the Lions are trying to fill. They're not going to be able to bring back a lot of these players, but when I look at their AAV stats for 2023, almost all of these players are under $3 million in AAV for 2023. So even if their contract goes up about 20% this season, they can still fit the model for the Detroit Lions, because the Lions are going to have to add 20, 30 guys to this roster before training camp. And there's going to be a lot of cap friendly deals out there, 1-year deals, a lot of guys that are signing for league minimum just to land on a good roster. And let's just be honest here. The Detroit Lions is the destination station right now. There's a lot of people that want to come and work for this organization because of the straight line trajectory that it has right now, going straight up. It's fun to watch. So the next team is Buffalo Bills. And I'm more excited about the Buffalo Bills because there's a few players on this roster that I really like. But the Buffalo Bills right now are negative $51.8 million in cap space. All right, so let's take a look at the Buffalo Bills free agency tracker. Again, this is all based on Spotrac and the information that they're putting out there that we hope is correct. So straight away, Micah Hyde, strong safety. He's got a high AAV, so he's potentially going to cost $10-12 million a year. I don't know if the Lions are going to really be in a position to add another safety unless Gardner Johnson doesn't come back. So if Gardner Johnson doesn't come back, then yes, I think that there's an opportunity for the Lions to add another safety. Tracy Walker is set to make like $12 million this year as a cap hit. He's got about $6.8 million in bonuses that are due between this year and his void year next year. I don't see him coming back. I think that the Lions are going to cut him and save about $5 million in cap. And if they don't, then a big restructure is going to be in order so that Tracy Walker can have an opportunity to make the team this year. After the benching and what he went through this last season, I just don't see him as a high priority right now. And if Gardner Johnson doesn't come back, then it leaves an opportunity for another, mid-priced safety to join this squad. I definitely think the Lions should find somebody in the draft as well, but there's only so many guys we can take in the first 3 rounds. Defensive tackle, Daquan Jones. Again, keep in mind, I have not evaluated all of these players independently yet. I will get through a lot of them over the next 6 weeks. I hope to put out at least 40, 50 videos highlighting some of the best players and guys that I feel that fit. Leonard Floyd. I do like Leonard Floyd because, his cap hit is not crazy and his production is pretty good. But I didn't like the message that he put out, which was he was planning on joining the team that paid him the most money, which tells me maybe he doesn't care about winning as much. He only cares about his pocket. And for that reason, I don't think he's a great fit. But, conversations behind closed doors may shed a different light. And I think that the Lions are going to be no nonsense with the guys that they bring in. Like Brad Holmes says, they're very intentional. So they will do their due diligence. But I do like Leonard Floyd. Um, Tim Settle, again, I don't know much about this guy, but another defensive tackle. Lions definitely need to add another defensive tackle to this team. Jordan Phillips, defensive end. He's an intriguing prospect. 31 years old. I think he's middle to low tier AAV this year. Somebody that the Lions could bring in. Another defensive end, Puna Ford. Cornerback Dane Jackson. Linebacker Terrell Dodson. Wide receiver Trent Sherfield. Guard David Edwards. The Lions do need to add a guard. They need a guard center or both. They need someone that can come in that can play, either guard position as well as fill in at center. Just in case that Ragnow goes down. We can expect that Ragnow, might need a game or two this next season. We'll see. He's got to come back first. I know that big looming question right now is he going to come back? And it's probably going to take 4 to 6 weeks before we know what's going to happen. But I think that he'll give the Lions an answer before free agency. Safety Taylor Rapp. Another defensive tackle, Linval Joseph. And my guy, the guy that I really love, that I would love to see join this Detroit Lions team in 2024 is AJ Epinesa. He's been high on my list ever since he came into the league. I loved his attitude. I loved his work ethic. He's somebody that I feel would fit this team to a T. He really brings great energy. Just a good all-around guy, hard worker. I mean, someone that's going to put it in every single day. And his market value is not crazy. You're looking between 5 and 7 million a year. And for what he is able to bring to the table, and another Iowa guy, by the way, we love Iowa guys, especially tight ends. But he's somebody that I believe can really help out this team in a big way. And if we go with my theory of, adding 2 guys versus 1, AJ Epinesa would be the first leg. And then adding that second guy, again, if Leonard Floyd ends up being a good fit, then you're adding a Leonard Floyd, somewhere between 8 and 9 million a year potentially. So you get 2 guys for less than 18 million a year. I think that that's a much better decision than pulling the trigger on a 22 to 25 million dollar guy. Next guy, Shaq Lawson, defensive end. Cornerback Cam Lewis, and tight end Quentin Morris. I think the Lions are going to be in the hunt for another tight end this year. Might even draft another one. We'll see what happens. The Buffalo Bills being negative 51.8 million in cap space to start 24 before the new league year. They have a lot of decisions to make, and they're not good decisions. And I think that the Lions can use this to their advantage. Next team, Miami Dolphins. They're starting the year $51.2 million in the hole. And if we look at the Miami Dolphins, man, there's some players on here that I really like. And I think that we'll start with one that's been talked about already. And initially, like I said, I thought it was a joke. I thought the last name was a joke, and I'm not, being mean or anything. I just, the way that it came off, it sounded different than what it was when I first heard it. But Andrew Van Ginkel, he really does check some boxes. And his cap hit, his market value, probably in that $4 to $6 million range per season. He is somebody I believe that the Dolphins are going to want to bring back, but the guy's a thumper, and he's all about it. So the more tape that I watch on the guy, the more excited I get. So he is somebody to put on your watch list. But my biggest free agency acquisition from the Dolphins is Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle, 28 years old. His market value is going to be up there a little bit, $20 million a year. Now, if we're looking at potentially not signing Aleem McNeil or re-signing Aleem McNeil, this is a guy you bring in right now. You bring in a defensive tackle that you desperately need, somebody that is going to be able to work hard, maybe a 4-year deal. That'll get him, to 32 years old. I would say if you were to get him somewhere, 3 to 4 years, 17 to $20 million a year, I think that would be workable. And this is about the only guy that I think that I would really like, that in Matabuki, that I would really like to spend some money on. But that's kind of getting away from my method, of bringing guys up through the draft and also not overspending on these guys. But we do need defensive tackle help. And if we're not going to re-sign Aleem McNeil, then I would expect that the Lions are going to go out and find somebody that can be a game changer. And I think that Wilkins can be a game changer on this team. He might not be my number one overall, but he is my number one, free agency acquisition from the Dolphins. They have a lot of other players though. Robert Hunt, guard. Nick Needham, cornerback. Chase Claypool, wide receiver. I doubt that he's going anywhere. I'm not sure that he's going to be a great fit. He's kind of gone through a little bit ever since leaving the Bears. And then you have Eli Apple. Eli Apple, cornerback. He's 28 years old. He is somebody that I do believe could be a potential fit for this team. Again, I have not evaluated him independently, but his comparable players are Marcus Peters, Michael Davis, Dante Jackson, and Nick Needham. At $3.7 million market value, I think that that is a fair market value for an Eli Apple, somebody that I wouldn't mind bringing in. Now, again, he may not fit all of the boxes or check all the boxes, but I'll have to evaluate him after this and see where he ends up. They have a lot of players that the Lions, a lot of player positions that the Lions could really benefit from. Jonathan Harrison, who's a center, Elijah Campbell, safety. So there's a lot of guys on this team that can fit. Christian Wilkins, Andrew Van Ginkel, Eli Apple, all potential players to land on the Detroit Lions this season. And like I said, we'll review them independently over the coming weeks. The next squad is the Los Angeles Chargers. They are going through a major change. New coach. He's going to want new players. If we know anything about Mr. Harbaugh, there is he's going to want to put his fingerprints all over this team. So I expect a lot of change over the next 4 seasons. And I think that we're going to see a lot of players get released, moved on from, not retained, whatever you want to call it. I think that there's going to be a lot of action on this team this season. So this is another squad that I would pay attention to. They are starting the season negative $44 million. So not a whole lot of opportunity here this season. And that's why I think that we're going to see a lot of movement. But there is a few players on this list that could give the Lions great fit. So Gerald Everett, 29 years old, tight end. Somebody that could be, that second guy if Brock Wright doesn't come back. I do like Brock, but I would like to see another tight end on this team that can be a playmaker. I think that Everett still has a little bit left in the tank. Could be a little bit too high priced for a tight end, over $6 million a year. Running back Austin Eckler. So if we're really looking for another third option and somebody that, has proven to be very valuable, Austin Eckler could come onto this team for about $6 million a year. Now, that would mean that we would have to move on from somebody like Craig Reynolds. And Craig Reynolds is a very inexpensive option as the third, running back. I mean, our 2 guys are set, but if we see Montgomery go down, I would love to have the opportunity of having another, banger on this team, that can really help this team succeed. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions add somebody like another running back that has the ability to be a starter, but is okay in that third role. Wide receiver Jalen Guyton, don't know much about him. The Lions are definitely going to be needing another wide receiver. Hopefully DPJ comes back, but if he doesn't, if Josh Reynolds decides, to go elsewhere for more money, then we're going to be needing somebody. The goal is that Jameson Williams really takes a step forward this season, and that we're not really looking for that number 1, number 2 combo, and that they're already set. But be that as it may, I expect the Lions to be looking for a wide receiver. And I really hope that Antoine Green takes a huge leap forward in his sophomore season. I really do. He's kind of somebody that flew under the radar this year. But they do have a center, Will Clapp. Again, don't know much about him. Another center, Cameron Tom. Cornerback, Ising Basie. Don't know anything about him. Kicker, Cameron Dicker. Again, don't know anything about him. Guard, Zach Bailey. So look, there's options here. The biggest one here is Michael Davis, cornerback, 29 years old. His AAV is going to be plus $8 million this season. Not sure that the Lions are going to spend that kind of money. But again, if CJ Gardner-Johnson is not coming back, then I think that it leaves an opportunity for the Lions to go out and find, a number 1 that can take the place of Cam Sutton. I think that a lot of us are in agreement that Cam Sutton is not the guy. Great number 2, just not a good number 1. So last on the list are the Denver Broncos. And the Denver Broncos do have a good potential to lose a lot of guys this year. They are starting the season negative $25.7 million. And again, when the new league year starts, that should pretty much get them to even, but they still have to, play the game and get under the cap. Now, they only have about a dozen guys on the free agency market. Now, the ones that I would really look into are kicker Will Lutz, could be too expensive. Cornerback Fabian Moreau, 29 years old, but low cap rate. But center, Lloyd Cushenberry. Is he somebody that the Lions could pluck to bring in to play guard and that has that ability to play center? So I'll look into him a little bit deeper and see, where the trends go. but they have, a couple of other players. Josie Jewell, inside linebacker. And I know our linebacker core is pretty good. His market value may be just a little too steep because I don't think the Lions are really looking to add another big time linebacker right now. We brought in Jack Campbell. We still have Alex Anzalone, Malcolm Rodriguez, Derek Barnes, assuming that he's going to be healthy, this next season. But Josie Jewell's probably going to bring in about 7 million a season. And I think that's just going to be a little bit too steep, but he is somebody to keep your eye on. So that's all. That's your top 5 losers of the NFL free agency. Expect these 5 teams to be losing a lot of their players, and I expect the Lions to be active in looking at these rosters to see who makes sense. And who knows, we might find out here in the next 6 weeks when free agency starts that the Lions pluck somebody off of these top 5 teams. All right, that's all for Rock Down Detroit Lions today. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Please do us a huge favor, and at the end of the video, subscribe, like, and share this video to help us grow. We certainly appreciate y'all. Go One Pride, go Detroit Lions. Take care. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.